Just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up.
There's a portrait, an image, Jesus during the great feast at the end of the age. And Jesus is standing and he is looking out a window. And one of the disciples come up to Jesus and they say, "Who are you looking for?" And Jesus says, "Judas. I'm looking for Judas." You know, we have been taught and schooled to hate Judas. To hate Judas. And you know, I don't know, but I don't think that Jesus hated Judas. Who is Judas? There's not a lot about him in the Bible. But if you remember Judas, they all were gathered at Lazarus' house. And Mary takes some expensive spikenard and she anoints Jesus. And Judas says, "Should we not have sold that and give the money to the poor?" And Jesus says, "You always have the poor with you. You won't always have me." Judas was the treasurer. He kept the money belt. And the scripture says he pilfered from the money belt. That means he stole from the money belt. Judas is the one that led the Roman guard into the Garden of Gethsemane. And Judas goes and he betrays the Lord with a kiss. That's basically all we know about Judas. But I don't think Jesus hated Judas. I think Jesus would have forgiven Judas for what he has done. We all have done things maybe we are ashamed of. But if we take those things to the Lord, he will forgive us of all of our sin. His forgiveness is great abundance. It's everlasting if we will just receive that. Peter, who was the chief disciple, when they led Jesus away, Peter followed, but he followed afar off. He was watching the events that were unfolding back then. Three times, people come up to Peter and say, "Oh, you're one of his followers." 3 times that happened. And 3 times Peter denied even knowing Jesus. Judas went out and he hung himself. Peter come back to the Lord eventually. They took Jesus before Pilate. Now, Pilate is an interesting character. He was the governor of Judea. He was to keep the peace. All these rebellions that would flare up, he was to put them down. He was to keep peace and order. They brought Jesus before Pilate. And there is Pilate and there is Jesus. And Pilate says, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus says, "You've said it. You've said it." Pilate struggled with what to do with Jesus. And he said, and this, I think Pilate made this up because there's no record of it. Pilate said during the feast of the Passover, there is a custom to release one prisoner. And Pilate went and got Barabbas and Jesus, and he put them before the people for a vote. The people were to decide. Pilate says, "Would you like for me to release Jesus, the King of the Jews, or Barabbas?" Barabbas was a zealot. And the crowd said, "Give us Barabbas." We are in that crowd. We are in that crowd. Who is Jesus? Who is Jesus? We have records, we have eyewitnesses of who Jesus is. We have his teaching, how he taught people to get along. We have his teaching about God, who God is, God's forgiveness, and God's judgment. We have miracles that Jesus performed. We have eyewitnesses to those miracles. We see him healing the sick, feeding the hungry with no food. We see him raising people from the dead. We hear his teaching. We hear that if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. I and the Father are one. And yet we have to decide this. Who is this Jesus? Who is this Jesus? We can't be on the fence. We have to decide who he is in our life. That decision has to be faced by all peoples. Jesus says, "If you don't acknowledge me before men, then I will not acknowledge you before the Father." If you accept him, you have a reward at the end of your life. Come into my kingdom. Look at all the marvelous things that have been created for you since the beginning of time. Or depart from me, I never knew you. You see, you can't be on the fence. You have to make a decision that can't be put off, because we don't know when our time will come. Back then, they decided to free Barabbas and crucify Jesus. And so they did. You know, I believe in our day and time, I believe they are preparing that great feast at the end of the age. I believe they're working on that great feast right now. And you know, I believe Jesus is standing, looking out the window. Who is he looking for? Is he looking for you?
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Oh, I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me